Hey everyone, Ryan O'Shea here from Future Grind, and I just wanted to release this brief interview that I conducted with Maggie Oates, one of the organizers of Please Try This at Home, a multi-day event taking place on September 14th and 15th, 2019 in Pittsburgh. So what is Please Try This at Home? Well, that's what we're about to find out. And remember, if you want more deep dives into the ethics and impact of emerging science and technology, it's completely free to subscribe and listen to the Future Grind podcast. And now, Maggie Oates. So, Maggie, I'd love to find out a bit more about who you are and your background and interests.
Sure. My name is Maggie Oates. I use she, her pronouns. I am a queer lady who tries to do better every day. I'm a PhD student at Carnegie Mellon in societal computing by day, and by evening, I would say that I try to spend my free time doing community organizing and activism work.
So, what is Please Try This at Home?
Please Try This at Home is this beautiful concoction, I would say, of a collective that kind of grew itself into being of people that are somewhat interested in biohacking with bodily autonomy, with biotech, all of those things together. We really encourage anyone to bring any topic that they want to cover and throw it out there into the world and let it explode. Our definition of expertise is incredibly broad and incredibly low bar. So come and talk and throw out what you're thinking about. Especially, I think it's an event for people to come across a variety of skill sets and technical backgrounds and interest backgrounds and come together and hang out and really consider bodies and embodiment and what kind of tech we want to incorporate with and around our bodies.
How did you end up finding this community, and what made you want to get involved?
I was on Twitter about a year ago and I saw this event and I read the description, something about, we're neither Luddites nor technocrats. We're looking for a more nuanced and healthy definition of the relationship between bodies and tech. And I remember I was at a point in my life where I was having a really hard time imagining what I thought the future should be like, what a desirable future would be in general. And I read the description and I was like, oh, this is it. I want to be involved with this. This is one of the futures that I think matters.
And there is a lot going on at Please Try This at Home. There will be featured speakers and panels, workshops, food, art, music, even massage therapy, and more. What are you most looking forward to at this event?
Let's see, I know nothing from the realm of biotech. So I'm really excited to learn a lot. My interest in embodiment comes from more on the side of dance and movement, as well as the kink community and that sort of body modification and their practices and rituals there. So I'm really excited to watch all these groups come together, and I'm hoping to really find a flavor of transhumanism that has both spirit and justice with it.
So how might Please Try This at Home be different than other conferences, perhaps in the tech or healthcare space, that people might have attended in the past?
Well, for one, it's run by a bunch of anarchists mostly, which means that things feel and look different often than you might expect. There's a lot less, this is what you should go do here now. There's a lot less, this is the message that we're pushing, and more of, here's the container and frame that we're interested in. Let's all fill it however we think makes sense. I think it'll be different because there will be a lot more women and queer people and people of color at this. If we're doing our job right, that is, than you will see at your average tech and health conference. And you can even kind of see this in the organizers list, where somehow we ended up with almost no men helping organize this event, which is, I think, pretty peculiar.
So, ethics are central to conversations surrounding these topics, and Please Try This at Home is not shying away from that. In fact, you seem to be putting ethics at the forefront. What's the role of ethics in this, and how will that be discussed?
I don't think it's the case that ethics will play a role. I think ethics is the central role, really. And we're more attaching biotech and biohacking and these topics onto that central idea of living and existing ethically as much as we can. Um, but I think while a lot of us might view ethics or our moral frameworks as a barrier to getting cool and interesting technical work done, I think this conference will be really about and center there is no cool and technical work unless you stop and do the work of thinking about whether it should exist in the first place.
So you're coming at this from a background in academia and experience in academic settings. How do you compare and contrast that with the setting of Please Try This at Home?
Yeah, this is a really great question. I actually think when I started hopping on the organizing team, I think quite a few of the organizers were like, "Who is this person? Like, does she know that we are not super hype about institutional hierarchies and things like that?" So that has been a big learning experience for me already, even in terms of lots of big differences here in terms of like the ideas of what it means to be qualified to talk about something, what it means to be qualified to be the person to do something. Academia is like you're going to go to school for 25 years and then you get the sticker that says, yeah, now you can teach. Whereas this is you've lived and have knowledge as a result of living. Like, go forth and teach what you know. Please, it's irresponsible not to do that. So I think that is a major difference that you'll see here that you won't get at academic environments in terms of a lot less hierarchy, a lot less formal certification, but at the same time countering that with such a strong like focus on ethics that it balances out some of the fears that a lot of people have about losing compliance and hierarchical structures.
Have you discussed your involvement with Please Try This at Home with your colleagues in these academic settings? And if so, what has the response been?
Ugh, this is also great. I have been discussing it selectively with some people. Um, I've been actually trying not to flood the conference with all of the academic people I know who might be interested. Uh, and so as a result, I've been trying to actually focus my recruiting and marketing efforts like away from my circles and more onto people that might be a better fit for this or like might need this content more. But I definitely think I have seen a lot of my friends just have a moment of like, oh, I never considered that before. Like, oh, you can do science without a university. Like, I can self-experiment without the NSF. I can think about ethics without an IRB. I think it has been an awakening for some of my friends as well as for myself to be involved with this.
What do you hope to learn from this conference? What do you hope to come away with that you didn't know before that you're interested in hearing?
Literally, this list would be way too long. I actually am trying to go in with very little intention and just know that being there, swimming in the types of like values and thoughts and creativity that this group has is going to be really valuable in learning for me. Like I said earlier, I'm sort of on the hunt for a transhumanism that has spirit to it. I'm interested in like theologies of transhumanism. I'm interested in expanding our definition of technology. I'm really interested in how I can better serve myself, like on a super personal level, how I can figure out a way to get my meds that I need without having to rely on this strange and convoluted institution that is the insurance and pharmaceutical industry.
So this conference is free to attend, but it isn't free to put on, and there is a fundraiser to raise funds towards putting on this conference and making sure that all the costs can be covered. Why should people donate to this, and what will those funds go to covering?
Yeah, this is great. So why should people donate this first? I think there's a strange impulse to like see an event happening that you're not directly a part of or that you won't directly be at and be like, well, why should I put my resources there? Like that's not my people, that's not my community. And I would really encourage people, even that can't make it or haven't really heard about it, that this is something that is worth throwing your dollars at, and partially because I mean the biohacking community is still in a really early stage in terms of like building itself up and building its collective knowledge up, and that what will get done here is a lot of joy and work, but a lot of joy and a lot of fun and a lot of fascination, but it will also be like a lot of labor is going to be happening in terms of people like brainstorming new ideas that are going to turn into something that is going to hopefully have a huge impact on someone else's life. So I think it is worth remembering that you're funding a collective project that will have rippling effects, not just a group of friends that are going to go hang out. So that's one. And then the second question of where is this money going to? I like to use the framework that we try to take sort of reparative approach to where we put our money for this event. As much as possible, we try to put funding in the hands of people that are more marginalized, whether it's disabled people, people of color, people in the queer community, funding to go to people to get them on a plane, to get them here, funding to make sure that our space is accessible and not just in the sense of like, oh, look, there's a ramp, we're good to go, but also accessible in the sense like consulting with communities to hear like the details of what they need and the realities of what they need beyond the bare minimum and making it a great place for a lot of people to exist. And so we're also trying to do other things like make sure that we have enough people to cover things like childcare, feeding the masses. The ways that we value spending our money is, again, I would use the phrase, a reparative approach to that.
So I guess my last question is, what is your pitch? Why should someone come to this?
Yeah, I think I would just convince them with the way that it convinced me, and that is sort of start painting this picture that I think is really possible when events like this pop up. And that is like a picture where I walk over to my friend's house and we cook up her hormones in the kitchen for the week. A future where, as I said, I no longer have to tear down doors and call 9 million people in order to get the supply of chemicals that really helps me thrive, when I can just, slap that in the right capsule that works for me at home and do that myself. I want to see a world where people have the freedom to do all of the like weird and wonderful stuff that they want to do with their body. Sometimes now in many states, for example, you might have to fact check me on this, but I believe in many parts of Ohio, it is illegal to like puncture people's body larger than the size of a penny if it's not in the context of medicine. And just that kind of like idea that our bodies are something sacred in a scary way is something that I would love to see expanded and say, this is my relationship to this fun object should be one that is really freeing and really great. And those are all the futures that I want to live in. And these are the kind of futures that you start to taste at Please Try This at Home.
That's all for my interview with Maggie Oates. If you want more on these topics, please subscribe to the Future Grind podcast, and I hope to see you at Please Try This at Home.